Everybody, and welcome back. We are still in day 2 of the SEL Fall Finals, and for those of you who missed the first half of the show, don't worry, we still got plenty more to come. It's going to be a really exciting matchup coming up next, actually, with Astral versus CAZ. But before we really go into the breakdown of that, I want to go ahead and remind you guys back at home, we do still have our Sennheiser promo happening for you guys in case you're interested in checking out some of the audio quality that we bring to our players here at LAN.
Some flashy gear for both the casters and the players there on the arena. You know, be able to hook it up into your wall mount, no problem.
And of course, like I was saying, we do have a lot of fun matchups going on. Taking a look at the bracket, actually, we have already seen Obey versus Elevate. That was our secondary match of the day. And then for starting things off, it was actually Soar versus Myth Gaming, and already a little bit different than what happened yesterday.
Just no strangers to the splits at all, with Myth splitting against Soar Gaming 1-1. And then, you know, Astral coming in against CAZ here. And then set number 3 of the day, Astral split against Soar. CAZ lost 0-2 against Myth. We'll see where the story goes.
And this is a really tough matchup, not only for CAZ, but it's also crucial for Astral, because if they want to still stay in contest for that first place possibility, they really need to close it out with a 2-0 for those 3 points.
Especially considering that Astral is the team, you know, that won the spring split, they won the summer here. What do you think Astral's chances are here in Group B specifically?
I think they're definitely the best team in that group. I feel like that group's actually really good. Myth is very good. Soar is actually showing up pretty huge. But I think overall, they've won the last 2 lanes. They definitely have some of the best players in the world.
What is it more besides just, you know, the mechanics of this team that makes them the best console team in the world?
They just really listen to the shot calls from Chach. They all follow through. They just have trust in each other. And they just never get second guess.
And for anybody back at home who's wondering who this guy is, we're actually joined now with Brochacho, we had from Astral Authority. He's their support, and he had to go play his game since he's going to be involved in this next one. But Forger Vulcan from Elevate, actually the 6th man, and what's it like after, because I know for your team environment, you guys are coming off, but getting to enjoy the matches and everything and help out with the coaching?
I think it's incredible. I'm having one of the best times of my life, to be honest.
I mean, that's always an awesome time, and of course, it's always important whenever you get to analyze some of the stuff that these teams are going to be bringing out. And a team like Astral Authority in particular, I mean, you guys have been scrim partners for a little bit now. What are you kind of expecting to see from them?
I'm not expecting like wild picks. Just standard stuff that they like, that's worked in the past. Gonna shine true here.
All right. Well, that's always, I guess that's kind of just one of those things where you want to just wait and see what happens. And Toli, I know that you actually really enjoy watching Astral Authority play. I think that you can probably have a little bit more to say. In particular, I really have just been loving Wolves' play style.
The way he's been actually piloting this Odin pick is very impressive to me. You know, in every single split thus far, he is the staple of the solo lane, at least in the console side of the world. And honestly, if he ever picked up a mouse and keyboard, I'm sure he would make wonders happen over there as well. But this man right here in front of your screen, you just can never really predict the direction that he's going to go in terms of the pick or in terms of his play style, because he can easily switch things up between being aggressive and then just passively rotating.
Absolutely. He actually does have a mouse and keyboard. He does play a little bit here and there, but definitely likes Xbox a little bit more. He's very, very good on like 3 to 4 picks. I'm pretty sure he can play everything, but just those 4 are just incredible.
And what are those 4 that you're talking about?
I'm not going to put them all out there, but, you know, the Ymir and the Odin, he's just so good. And people don't even think that they're good picks, but he just elevates them to a really good
I see
level.
what you did there. I see what you did there. A true natural caster here on the desk. I would assume that Astral are your scrim partners?
Mm-hmm. I've been for like the last month or so.
How's that been going?
Pretty good. Like back and forth, actually.
What's the most that you've learned scrimming against Astral? Not necessarily like from their style that you're going to reveal to the world, but like...
Little mistakes can literally cost you whole games. And they are the best at just getting off game-winning plays.
Is there ever that like one mistake in the back of your mind that still haunts you?
Gold Fury calls when they have one person up, steal it, but they have like a better secure.
Well, speaking of little mistakes, I know somebody that doesn't want to try and make any of the same little mistakes as yesterday, Transonics. I mean, took a spill early on. Actually, I feel as though that helped funnel into one of Astral Authority's first losses in a long time, but Transonics is a player who is able to bounce back, no problem, one game to the next. Even if he's off, he's certainly going to come in with a fire, and I think that's what he's looking for here today.
I mean, he put no respect on the man yesterday against, I think it was Mr. White there, and, you know, just casually walking away from a HoYi ultimate. You know, he had his ultimate, he had the role, literally no respect.
It happens sometimes. You can just kind of overlook it when that overconfidence comes into play. But I think that reality check is kind of something to keep in mind, especially when he's going to be facing off against a hunter like Atonement who really loves playing aggressive. And he's got a little bit of a different playstyle as well, because in comparison to a lot of the other hunters here, he really seems as though he's able to pull it back out of nowhere.
He's very smart. He doesn't take really bad fights. He knows what his god is capable of. He knows the matchups. He just tries to make the best plays that he possibly can. I think that's a really good thing. Going back to the trans play, I think it was just an ego, like a really big ego play. He just wanted to assert dominance.
He wanted to show off, and unfortunately he got showed off on.
It happens sometimes, but of course, Atonement, he's coming in with a fresh hunter perspective all the way over from Europe, and that's always something crazy to keep in mind when you're facing off against a team like Astral Authority. They're considered a powerhouse in NA, and so we actually had a chance to sit and talk with Atonement earlier this week, and you guys can check out what he had to say.
It's changed a lot. So I used to be really confident and really aggressive, but obviously after I left Rival and joined a team that was in Challenger Cup, I kind of had to adjust my play style. So I'm more team orientated now. I shot call a lot, so I just kind of play back and do what the team needs rather than what I think I should be doing. I was, I guess, bored. It sounds weird, but I was kind of bored of being at the top because scrims were never a challenge. If we lost, there was always an excuse, which was we just weren't playing or trying. Now we had to play. To win a game, we had to put in a lot of effort, we had to practice, we had to grind, and I was with people that hadn't been there before, so they wanted it more than me, and it was just nice being in that scenario again. It was quite easy just to switch over from top to a Challenge Cup team. Last year, when I was here, I expected to make Worlds, and we came, I guess, real close, but we just didn't quite make it. But it's not just for us, it'd be for like EU. EU kind of needs to prove ourselves right now, so it'd just be huge for the community if we made it. The more we keep not performing, the more the pressure builds, because it just becomes like it's just another team that thinks they're good and they're just going to flop again. So it builds the longer time that it goes on. I think the other EU team's under a lot more pressure because they've just come out of nowhere and just gone undefeated in a split, which hasn't really happened other than Rival for the last year and a half. So I think they feel the pressure.
Feeling the pressure, it's something that seems to be the reoccurring theme for these European teams that come over for LAN. And formerly, Rival used to be the only EU powerhouse that would make its way over, but now it's got KAZ trying to take up the mantle of representing.
Despite Rival beating out Soar Gaming during the Summer Valencia semifinals there, making it to losing against Astral, it was KAZ that took out Rival in the online portion in a huge 74-minute game one, 58 game number 2 to eliminate that European powerhouse and now make a new name for KAZ.
And for a team like KAZ that's coming into this, they haven't had a win so far. So today, this is a set that they really need in order to make that happen.
And the whole group is just so close right now between the split of Astral and Soar yesterday. You know, KAZ losing to Myth was to be expected, but I still think KAZ showed a little bit of life.
They absolutely did. I feel like their jungler got behind early, but was ready to steer the ship, got back into it. Their solo was actually doing great early against Delny, which I think is one of Mist's better players. So I'm looking for him to do, or see how he does against Wolves, being probably the best solo in the world.
And with this early Zeus ban, what do you think is part of the reasoning for the... I mean, both teams actually are just eliminating these early pressure, it seems, Gods?
It seems that that's the target, right? Elexum against Coviiii. Zeus has been a staple console pick. Ryzen has just been the flavor of the month in both console and PC.
Absolutely. I don't really understand the Zeus pick because I can't remember the last time that I've seen Coviiii in an SEL game or even a scrim play it, to be honest. So, and if you watch, there's like a lot of hunters that are being picked for mid, and Coviiii loves that.
He likes the Thoth. I'm sure he likes other stuff. You know, he normally plays a lot of the Soul as well, and that man on your screen, it's him.
It's Ron Jobert.
It's
actually him.
The only.
But more importantly, the picks, the rest of the picks and bans, having eliminated the Kukulkan and Kukulkan, I think those are two very standard bans that have been prevalent picks for console whenever they have gotten through. So for KAZ being in that first pick seat now, what do you think they're going to take?
I think that KAZ will probably select, like, since the ban of Odin or Kukulkan happened, I think that Odin would be a more prioritized pick, trying to eliminate some of the escapes. HoYi synergizes very well with Odin. I still think that KAZ is looking a little bit more for that style, though.
And again, the Astral Authority, knowing that KAZ has been looking for the HoYi, we've been seeing a ton of first pick HoYi. And Forger, why do you think this keeps recurring?
I think he just has one of the best teamfight ultimates in the game. His camp clear is incredible. He has really good box potential. And against Astral, I think it's two-pronged because you know that there's an Odin possibly out there, and he can get out of the cage.
So would you imagine that KAZ could potentially be looking for an Odin later on in their draft?
After those two picks, then maybe. Because the Odin setting up for HoYi with the Suns coming in is really, really good. They do pretty well into it, so maybe not, though.
Already, Osiris and Thor have been locked in for Astral Authority. KhaoticPurpose loves these aggressive junglers, and this is something that he's been trying to kind of bring back into his game. He wasn't really utilizing it, though, yesterday, playing a little bit more utility instead.
Which is weird to me, because Lairs is definitely one of the best jungles in the world. He's mechanically insane, and we put him on Kukulkan, which doesn't really get to show off his skill.
Which is probably maybe why that's Astral's like banning Kukulkan. I was like, all right, Chaotic, no more Kukulkan.
We don't want to play it. We don't want them to play it. Yeah.
It makes sense, though, because now you're throwing him onto a god like Thor, who has that ability to not only play the jungle carry, but the setup god himself. And also, it's a great pick, I think, against a HoYi because he doesn't have the CC immunity in his ultimate like other hunters. So a lot of chances, I think, for Astral to look for a punish in that duo lane.
Considering that a lot of hunters like to play aggressive with HoYi, you have the advantage as long as you can find the slows, you find the stun off of that Mark of the Golden Crow, and that's the idea. Use this global pressure from KhaoticPurpose, trying to get an edge here for Transonics. Give him some confidence going into this game.
Also, what I think is pretty great is for them in their solo lane fight, they have early pressure throughout, and that's really going to be detrimental to KAZ.
And we see a ROM selection, actually. So Transonics actually electing to pick up his ADC despite KAZ having already picked it. And do you think that this is out of concern that KAZ might have banned the ROM?
Absolutely. I think that the ROM selection needs to happen before the secondary ban phase. You need to fight fire with fire quite literally here in terms of late game potential. The Soul, HoYi, Fafnir is insane late game. You have two great long range in-handers with a coerce to back them up.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the Rama, but also I would have liked something a little bit better early. Rama level 1 is very good, but after that, it's just falls off a little bit.
Are you surprised to see Astral actually banning away the Kuzenbo instead of maybe taking it themselves, knowing they're going against the double hunter composition?
Not at all, because with Osiris already locked in, that's more than likely going to go in the hands of Wolves, and it's Mr. Turtle on KAZ that's playing solo. He literally plays the turtle. That's all he plays.
It's not all he plays, I'm sure.
But that's his favorite, though.
I can understandably so.
You know, he likes turtles.
Do you think that KAZ would have actually picked up a Kuzenbo, though, for their solo laner, knowing that they already had the Fafnir? Is that enough peel, you think, for those two hyper carries?
I don't think it's enough peel, but I think it's really hard to kill HoYi with his Suns. He can dance in it and then just jump away. And then Soul is just very, very hard to kill. So I feel like if they definitely could have got it and just an all dive in comp.
So looking at this from Astral's perspective, what do you think they need to pick up as far as their support is concerned to help try and mitigate some of that pressure from the double hunter?
I mean, Xing Chen was the first thing that comes to my mind. You're trying to mitigate some of this in-hand damage, maybe even going for Khepri with Rising Dawn. Those were your number 2, because you already have an aggressive front line between Osiris and Thor. Get something more defensive in the back.
Something that can just help your squishies survive is basically what you'd be looking for. They do pick up the Xing Chen, which doesn't really do that well, maybe. But I like it into the double ADCs that are over there. That is very good.
Do you think that the Xing Chen is also going to prevent a lot of hunters from or a lot of junglers, excuse me, from working their way into Astral's backline?
With the pancake flip, with the the pull, and just being able to Furious Roar all over the place. I really like this idea here for Astral Authority, locking in Xing Chen for El Brochacho. He should be able to be in a good spot, because I know he likes to be aggressive, but he also has a defensive style about him, knowing when to peel it back.
He knows when to switch between aggressive and supportive. And Xing Chen can do both. I think he's a little bit better at being aggressive than defensive, but he does have the capabilities to do that.
I mean, I think all of Astral are better about being aggressive. I don't think being defensive is their strong suit personally, but they've been known to win the late game when they get there. And speaking of late game, Nemesis is one of the best late game junglers out there.
Nemesis and the Ymir to also help complement it. It seems as though KAZ really wants to separate Astral Authority from each other, and what better way to do it than with some actual walls?
Against a Rom that can't necessarily roll through that unless he has the Phantom available, and this is a pick we haven't seen in a hot minute.
The Kukulkan, and I mean, I still get surprised every single time I see this guy pop up, because you just never really expect it, especially against a draft that has the mobility like what KAZ can offer.
I think that it's just all about this setup. Thor's going to come landing with a huge dunk. Now, normally, whenever you see Thor, you're thinking of, Ra potentially, some long-range fire. Scylla potentially would be good, but Kukulkan is also good about controlling space, throwing out a tornado in the jungle.
Kukulkan is very good at corridor fights, but their team is definitely better at that. So I'm not really sure what they're looking for. I don't know. Yeah, safe clear.
Looking at these two drafts, though, who do you think is going to take it home?
I like KAZ's draft better, but I have to go with Astral.
I like Astral's draft a little bit slightly better, and I think that they can execute it better than KAZ.
Well, time to find out which team's going to have the better execution as casters. Let's take it into game number 1.
We'd be happy to, Taco. Thank you for handing it off. It's going to be Finch, going to be Ryan Aggro Bailey over here, and it's going to be a Kukulkan for Astral Authority.
This has been a comfort pick for Coviiii for a while now, and this is no surprise to me that Coviiii had a couple struggles yesterday on the Medusa. It's time to put him on something a little bit more traditional in the mid lane. This is just a straight up traditional draft from Astral Authority, which is exactly what I wanted to see. Look, they've got their alternative strategies. It works a lot of the time. In my mind, it works because they are so good as a unit, not necessarily because these alternative strategies end up being better. Putting them on traditional gods that have had proven success in working together, I mean, there's pressure on the right side of the map. It's late game in your dual lane and having someone mid. The Xing Chen pick here is great for Brochacho. It fits his playstyle nicely. This draft is very, very good for Astral.
I actually like this Kukulkan pick a lot. I think that he's, like you said, kind of a traditional mage, that big burst damage that you want, that AoE damage that you want. It feels like you only have to be in those tornadoes for literally the smallest amount of ticks for it to be on you forever. And he's got plenty of setup. The Thor, the Xing Chen, it's not going to be a struggle for Coviiii to have a big impact and hit his ultimates off of that kind of setup.
Exactly. That's the big thing, is there's plenty of setup. And that Xing Chen ultimate is one of the best at picking up multiple people and tossing them in a little tiny line that Kukulkan can just crush down with Spirit of the Nine Winds.
You need it easy, don't you, mid laners? You needed a real easy setup.
It's best if you take all chance out of the equation, put them right at me, and I can do that. Anything else, it's up for chance.
Anything else would be up in the air, so make it as simple as possible.
Well, they still get tossed up in the air because Xing Chen throws
it is
them
up in the air.
Bit,
It is up in
and
the
then
air.
actually Spirit of the Nine Winds knocks up as well, so
That's
there's
my
actually
bad.
plenty of air.
It's
if
my
you could
fault
just
this is happening.
consider that next time, that'd be probably a little bit better.
It's my fault all this is
I mean, obviously,
it's on
yes.
me for this. But CAZ eSports, I gotta agree with them. I actually like their draft a lot here too.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with them. It's like Astral maybe might be better mechanically, but CAZ, I mean, they've got a strong roster, so they certainly can bring it together. Fafnir into the Soul, who Yi has worked wonders.
Exactly. They've clearly looked at what other teams are having success with and tried to apply it to their own style, and that's something that you can always appreciate. HotaruMizushina, Soul, Fafnir is a great first three picks for them. The Nemesis I like, but a little bit worried about the walls coming down from Thor and if he's going to get out-pressured in the early game by the Osiris-Thor combination on that right side of the map. The Ymir pick could end up being big. Now, you expect Ymir to get pressured most of the time, especially against Osiris, but he isn't like other Guardians like the Xing, say, in the solo lane or the Sobek, where they're just going to be pushed under tower and not have a lot of clear. Ymir clear is very good and can fight in the early game. He's just going to need to be very wary of where he's using that ultimate, because Shards of Ice is going to be his escape button to that Xing ult, because Brochacho is going to be looking to pick up Mr. Turtle and toss him towards Coviiii.
And I want to ask you here too, who's the target for this Nemesis? A lot of the times we see him picked when there's like maybe like an immobile Guardian to punish, like a Sylvanas or something like that, but everyone on this Astral roster seems relatively safe to me.
Osiris is going to be the easiest target, I think, for CAZ, and knowing Brochacho, there's going to be a lot of jumping in to start the engagements.
Sure.
That's going to be a great target. I mean, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, while you do have some mobility in there, you're not too mobile, and so if you just get hit by that Nem ult, Soul hits the beads and then drops the ult right away, then that's probably going to be a dead Xing Chen. Also, if KhaoticPurpose is a little bit too aggressive, hammering in off some poke or whatever it is, then that's going to be an opportunity for a Nemesis ult onto the jungler as well.
So we're feeling maybe a little bit more counter initiation from this Nemesis.
Yes.
They can get those jumps, those escapes down, then Nemesis can come in and try and blow it up in that situation.
Exactly, and Coviiii and Transonics, particularly Coviiii, because at least Transonics has the ability to go up into the Astral Barrage and just buy time in the air if he gets Ymir walled off in the jungle. But Coviiii needs to be very wary of where he is in the jungle in relation to Mr. Turtle coming out of the solo lane with that Ymir. This Ymir wall is going to make his life very difficult because, of course, Kukulkan, no way to get up and over it.
No, for Kukulkan, a lot of the times their self-peel is kind of like running around inside the tornado,
yes, it's
or
like
moving slightly faster.
Hey, Slither is a not very great ability. Yeah, you're right.
Not an excellent escape, but
no. You're really relying on slowing with the Zephyr to try and create some distance, and that could be impactful here because slows are great against Ymir because he can't wall himself off right by walking right over the wall as he's putting it up. Slows really make Ymir's life difficult.
That's a tight window even when you've got your normal movement speed to get back over that wall. That's a great point. So slowing him down does limit some of his better options for cutting him off. But I mean, this Ymir, this Fafnir, this control that they're going to be able to bring, that's what they're going to need. They're going to be very much relying on good walls coming out from this Ymir, good changing that geometry on the map.
Exactly. That last pick changed this entire draft in my mind for CAZ. Plus, keep in mind, Ymir creates an extra wall for HotaruMizushina to bounce off of and get lucky, or skill, whatever you want to say. Exactly. So you can factor that in to what you're going to be doing in that duo lane with Atonement coming out of that lane.
But we've got CAZ ready to go here up against Astral Authority. And Aggro, this is a big game for Astral Authority. I mean, Myth are already sitting on 4 points, I believe, after splitting with Soar. So if they want to keep up and stay up at that top, only the top two teams make it out, then they need to be able to get 3 points here, the 2-0, up against CAZ.
Exactly. And otherwise, Myth, they play Astral Authority tomorrow actually to begin our day. And that would mean the Myth only needs to split in order to secure first seed coming out of this group. So this is certainly an important game for Astral. Talking to Brochacho, the leader, the support, he knows that this one's important, and they're taking it very seriously against a roster that you expect to not be quite as strong as the team that's won every land so far on the console scene so far this year.
And it looks like we're getting our mids and our hunters starting in this mid lane over here. Already, Transonics taking too much poke from Atonement off that ricochet. That's what HotaruMizushina can do for you. And now looping it on the backside, though, we actually have coming in Brochacho looking to try and help relieve some of this pressure.
That's going to put good poke onto Atonement, but Atonement still ends up on top in the trade there because Transonics had to use one of his 2 health potions and got pushed down to half HP despite that constant regen. Everyone kind of doing their assault strats right now, grouping up in the mid lane. There's plenty of farm available on the left side of the map and on the right side, and there's the split. Atonement is going to go to the left side to pick up that red buff alongside BradleyRJ, whereas on the right side, that's where Transonics headed with Coviiii. So this means that CAZ is going to be able to get their buffs a little bit easier on this left-hand side, and maybe even able to invade here, and that's why I like this rotation better. I mean, Atonement's going to be getting more farm than Transonics will be in the mid lane, and unless they come up right over to the left-hand side, which it looks like Coviiii and Transonics are, they're in danger of losing these left side buffs to Atonement.
Yeah, it looks like this start's really going to favor KAZ. I mean, even Elexum able to come down and get those back Harpies on that solo jungle side all to himself as well, and now head back in and not miss any kind of farm in that mid lane. Already, we can see it working well for him. But over on the solo jungle side, Wall from KhaoticPurpose does isolate him. Actually forces out the shell, freeze onto Wolves to lock him down. The damage from the minions and from that ice carpet. Has to back up, though, from that hammer. Actually blink into it aggressively. Horrific Emblem comes out, stacking the slows on top of Mr. Turtle. Nowhere for him to go. First blood goes over to KP.
This Nemesis better be careful, too. He gets stunned out, has to use a purification bead. Slice and Dice might be coming up soon. The double tap, not quite enough from KhaoticPurpose. No one fights better 2v2 in the solo than Wolves and KhaoticPurpose. They do it all day long. I'll bet you they queue up ranked and casual games just to play the first 10 minutes, fight their 2v2, and then they just want to move on to the next one, because that seems to be where they have their most fun. KAZ just not quite ready for it. Mr. Turtle almost ends up turning it around alongside Hotaru, but just not going to be enough to compete with Osiris and Thor in the early game.
And I got to think this was already going to be kind of rough for Mr. Turtle anyway, going up against this Osiris in the solo lane. So it hurts that he takes an early spill there. Now Hotaru having to back off as KP takes a little bit of poke there too, and that gets KhaoticPurpose off to a faster start. And that's an impactful ultimate that he might be able to tick over to first now, that Thor ult.
Atonement needs to be a little bit concerned because Brochacho's coming around the backside. He's going to be able to find this knockup, but Atonement has to use the ultimate as well. Purification beads not even used. Atonement is going to fall on the left-hand side to Transonics and Brochacho.
Good rotation from Brochacho, sets that one up. Even with those suns dropping down, Transonics was on the outside of him, able to just fire back in, no problem. And because there was no way for Bradley to get over there in time, that 2v1 just goes in their favor, and they get an extra kill on the Astral Authority.
I liked the idea that Atonement, once he took the knock-up root combo from Xing Chen, don't use the beads. There's nothing the beads there after that anyways, but using the jump that early, you want to make Brochacho jump on top of you and commit that to before you use your jump, because that creates more distance. By Atonement jumping in between the two Xing Chen leaps, it just lets Brochacho predict where he's going to land, which is of course right in front of his tower line, and then just be ready for him with the knockup. That's just some veteran experience there coming out of Brochacho.
And this is a little bit rough for KAZ because Astral kind of gotten these two kills kind of honestly. A lot of the times what we see is a rotation or like extra pressure in one area, but they just won the 2v2 in solo, and now they've got a bit of a lead for themselves over here in the dual lane.
And Transonics getting a lead is not what you want to see if you're KAZ, and I like what both Hunters are doing right now. Transonics just trying to keep this wave as pushed as possible towards this tower line to make sure that Atonement doesn't get a chance to push up at all. I've actually never seen that taunt. That was dope.
Yeah, Transonics is, he knows he's got the pressure over, so he's happy to do him.
That was a cool, like, the skin, like, it did a
cool
taunt.
I understand that.
I never saw that before, because I'm usually, like, trying to live when I'm playing that skin and not, like, taunting, but now I'm just going to start doing what all the console players do, and that's just taunt it up.
They've been doing a lot of taunting this weekend. You're not wrong.
Both verbally and in game. It doesn't matter,
man. It has been loud.
They're down to go.
The Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, though, does come out from Brochacho, throwing it back. Coviiii, of course, somehow messes it up when it gets thrown back to him. Bradley able to make it out, no problem. But over on this other side is Hotaru, who's in trouble. KP getting a second kill of the game up against the Nemesis.
Brochacho out of mana, but still wanted to go aggressive. Bradley was able to secure his own purple buff. Coviiii doesn't have the damage to get that kill anyways, and that's probably where we see the hesitation. He knows, like, I'm not going to be able to kill this guy, but Brochacho, I mean, that's still not a good sign that Coviiii ends up missing that. And we've seen setup compositions for him in the mid lane before. Think back to DreamHack Valencia, where he's playing Scylla with plenty of setup and was off the mark on quite a few ultimates that game. That has been Astral's weakness at times, is execution out of the mid lane. And with a composition like this, right now, it's okay. Bradley is going to survive there either way. Going forward into the mid and late game, it just can't happen, or else it could result in a lost team fight for Astral Authority.
But it couldn't have happened in a better setup for him, though. I mean, the two side lanes are doing really well. So if Coviiii needs a minute to get ready for that to warm up, then okay. And they've got the time for that to happen here in this game. And as you stated, he's going to get plenty of time going that Warlock Sash start. He hasn't been under that much pressure there in mid, so plenty of time to get online, get to the point where he is knocking down those ultimates, and then it's going to be real hard for CAZ eSports to hang.
Yeah, I really like the Warlock Sash that Coviiii has gone for because of how much pressure KhaoticPurpose is putting on the right side, how Brochacho has spent some decent time on the left side as well. Not only is he getting solo waves, he's getting these stacks guaranteed, and it's just making sure that he's going to be as safe as possible in the later game. Plus, Elexum hasn't been putting a lot of pressure on him. Soul's not going to put a lot of pressure on you. And Hotaru spent most of his time on the right-hand side as well, so he's been very safe to just farm up those stacks.
Brochacho gonna need to use that jump to get out of trouble. Ultimate coming out, Sunbreaker coming down on top of it too. Use that Whirlwind to Rage and Steal just to get away, and it's enough for him to save his life, and Transonics can just go back to farming happily.
The sprint, very important there for Brochacho. Smart pickup against the Nemesis, but now he's going to be vulnerable for being so aggressive on that left-hand side. May need to be more careful around where Hotaru is, and that honestly may have just caught Astral by surprise, because Nemesis has been in the right side this whole game. That might be the first time he's seen the left side of the map since he loaded in, so it may just have caught them off guard. Next time probably shouldn't happen.
I wouldn't have been surprised. I was just about to say we haven't seen Hotaru do much this game except for have a hard time over there in solo. Up into the air, though, is KhaoticPurpose crashing down onto 2. Supernova drop down in response, but not much damage comes from it. And there he goes. Hotaru once again takes a spill. Credit goes over to more Wolves this time as Coviiii and Brochacho rotate over as well.
Brochacho, no ultimate, so not going to be looking for the setup onto Mr. Turtle. That's just good recognition that Hotaru's speeds were still down from an engagement on the right-hand side earlier, and that's just Wolves trusting the call. He goes in as KhaoticPurpose is taking to the sky. It wasn't particularly close, but that's just, you can tell how well these two work together.
Yeah, there was a complete trust that he was going to come crashing in, and KhaoticPurpose did. All the setup they needed was there. Elexum, Supernova didn't get exactly what they wanted out of that one, too. So in the end, that ends up being another clean pick for Astral Authority, now up 4-0 and about 2,500 gold as well.
Well, Supernova hitting Thor in the middle of that spin. Berserker's Barrage makes you knockup immune. A lot of where that damage comes from is subsequently after the knockup.
Beats forced out of Coviiii there, I believe, in response to the stun.
Good
Atonement came through. Coviiii able to take down Elexum. Gets credit for that one. Brochacho on the retreat as now Transonics is rotated in. And that's what it feels like it's been here, Aggro. Clean picks and then disengage.
Very, very disciplined gameplay so far for Astral, though they haven't gotten a lot off of their picks. I mean, look at that engagement. They get the kill, but red buff still goes to KAZ. Right before that, on the right-hand side, they got the kill, but the speed buff still went to KAZ. So this could be going worse for CAZ eSports so far, but thus far, Astral has looked really, really clean in there. Coviiii does it all by himself, doesn't need any setup, with just a good read, playing to Kukulkan's strengths. As soon as someone walks into a tight corridor, drop that ult, get that free damage.
Bradley coming over here along with Hotaru to try and stop them from picking up that red buff, recognizing Brochacho is low. And it looks like that's been the focus here from this Nemesis pick, to try and slow down Brochacho and this Xing Chen. Not having been able to successfully do it so far, but at least that's where we've seen some pressure.
No, and with a sprint back up, it's going to be that much harder to find him. Wouldn't hate seeing a winged blade on Brochacho in this game. I mean, yes, you already have the sprint, but it's just such a good personal item, gives you that HP, it's cheap, allows you to immune those slows and get a speed boost yourself, and there's plenty of slows for KAZ. I mean, it's not just Nemesis, it's the Soul 2, it's Ymir, everything he does, it's the Fafnir slow off the Hammer Pulse, it's the Kukulkan ultimate slow. I mean, every character that KAZ has a slow, so winged blades, sprints, that should absolutely be picked up in spades here for Astral Authority.
And that's actually kind of good news for Nemesis. Sometimes those winged blades or the sprints, the slow immunity, can shut down a lot of what Nemesis want to do, because she's very reliant on those slows. But when a lot of people to proc them, to force those kind of relics, she might be able to get more out of them normally than she would. So we'll see what can happen with them in this situation, as once again, we see KhaoticPurpose starting to move aggressively in. Speed buff is coming up for KAZ, so they probably want to come over here and contest it.
And there's a great time to fight. Coviiii has his ultimate, doesn't have his beads, but he's already got his pen boots done with over 50 stacks on that Warlock Sash.
Wolves already taken half his health here in this engagement. 4 members are here. The wall comes up to try and separate the team, but in the background is Brochacho. Supernova comes out, but it's the ultimate from Coviiii that flattens Mr. Turtle. They take the first kill of the fight and back off.
And this time they get the speed buff as well. That wall from Mr. Turtle actually hurts KAZ more than it helps them. It stops anyone from poking out Astral, from trying to secure the buff from a distance. It forces Elexum himself, everyone over to the right side of that wall, and then it's just free pickings for Coviiii with that ultimate. Great job by the Kukulkan.
Gonna have to jump out of there is Bradley as they continue to pressure even the blue buff here this time. And as he said, not quite what they wanted to get out of those abilities in that last engagement. Elexum, I think, commits to Supernova just to try and help secure the buff, it kind of feels like, on that back end that engagement. And they don't get what they need. 6-0 now is Astral Authority, and they're continuing to be at those buffs on respawn. building up their lead so they can come over to these bigger objectives like Gold Fury, Portal Demon, and really start to push this lead out of control for CAZ.
And look at what Transonics is doing. He's proxy farming the wave. It actually forced Atonement really far up in this lane. And if this purple buff wasn't up, I think Transonics would have just looked to take the fight. Now that he's stolen it away, we'll probably just back up.
Whirlwind of Rage of Steel comes out of Brochacho. What he was looking for, he got. Those beads out of Hotaru and now are going to be on cooldown. So that means the next time his ult's up, it'll be easier pickings here on that Nemesis.
And that's no surprise that Astral has been picking on Hotaru so far. I mean, remember, he's a sub for this team up against ChaoticPurpose, who's one of the star junglers in the league.
It's a rough matchup for him. Did you see just now Transonics lurking around the corner trying to catch Atonement, and Hotaru rotating in, looking for any damage he can. He's feeling confident after this laning phase and looking to try and push some of that confidence into a fight wherever he can, as there's 3 members over here in his duel.
Brochacho gonna dash forward, but getting good stun there, followed up as well. Brochacho getting low, but here comes Coviii's ultimate, not gonna hit because of the ultimate there from the enemy squad, but KhaoticPurpose still in position to follow up.
And Bradley gets taken down by Transonic, kind of walked into danger there. Hotaru is coming up to try and help out. He sees a lot of low health bars, but knows he can't go in and fight into this. They got to back off, and it feels like the same old story here, aggro. A clean pick from Astral, and they get to walk away for free.
And without taking any real damage. I mean, Brochacho has taken more damage than the rest of Astral combined, it feels like so far, and he still hasn't fallen and gone for a little bit of a stranger build. Looked like he was going to work towards something like a Breastplate of Valor or Higher than Median Lion maybe, but then decided he'd rather get into that Kusari tree, get some magical protection up against the Ymir in the solo lane and the Soul in the mid lane. Not a bad idea, especially with how far behind Hotaru has been so far in this game, and that's been a dedicated effort from Astral Authority to keep that sub down.
And that's the real problem, is the solo jungle. Look at these level differences. We just saw that XP difference was almost 8,000 at 12 minutes here, aggro. It's because more Wolves is out in front of Turtle. It's because ChaoticPurpose is so far ahead here. Hotaru, from that solo jungle pressure, we saw them earn basically just in that 2v2 early on.
I mean, it's been brutal, and this is exactly what Astral's so good at, finding a weak spot and exploiting it. Where are they? As soon as the speed buff spawns, the speed buff, because that's ChaoticPurpose's secondary speed buff. It's no longer Hotaru's.
No, he will no longer be seeing that. ChaoticPurpose is happy to have that speed buff extended on out for him, a little extra duration. Actually, going up into the air, Mr. Turtle could be in trouble. Lands down to try and cut off the escape pad. Mr. Turtle immediately goes into the ultimate, but it was hopeless. He gets taken down easily by the 3-man rotation.
Love this runic shield from Wolves. It's aggressive and defensive at the same time, and it allows Mr. Turtle's damage to not be quite as relevant on these ganks, and there have been plenty of them so far.
This has been systematic so far. Look at Bradley, though. They're trying to bait Transonics in. He jumps in. The ultimate comes down, but there was no CC. Able to just walk out of it is Transonics, and he's on his merry way.
Has both his relics up, has his ultimate up. And
literally walked.
Yeah, literally. Well, he rolled it first, and then he just walked.
It was he just able to get out of there, really not under any pressure from Bradley and from Atonement over here in this dual lane. In fact, probably daring him to come back in and fight him now, as he still has all those relics back up, even the red buff around him. As Hotaru's under pressure again, KP underneath the tower, stuns him down. Not able to get enough damage off thanks to the shield, though.
Good shield by Hotaru. Has to commit the ultimate and the beads, and didn't get a lot in response. I mean, forcing ChaoticPurpose back, but you heard the sound cue. Astral got Portal Demon. There was a Ymir there at some point. Roughly around 14 minutes and 25 seconds he existed. And then by 4 minutes and 27 seconds, he no longer existed.
No, Coviiii deleting him with the ultimate. The lockdown from the rest of his team was good as well to pick up that kill. Now up 9-0, and systematic is the word I want to use here for this one, aggro. They've looked very clean, has Astral Authority. They've looked like the top card, which is as they are.
Certainly, and that's the bounce back that you expected from this team after what they would call a disappointing performance yesterday.
Yeah.
But in my mind, Soar proved today that they're for real. That's a team that can absolutely compete and has a really good shot at making it to Worlds, because keep in mind, Soar's last matchup is against this CAZ eSports team, their easiest matchup in this group. And if they're able to find that 2-0 victory, they put themselves in a really, really good spot going to Worlds.
I think this group is like a little bit closer than everyone was expecting coming in.
Yeah.
We certainly were expecting it to be Astral Authority and Myth, but Soar are, like you said, they're looking excellent. So all these matches are so important. Making sure you get any 2-0s that you can, even split if you can. Every point's going to matter here in these groups.
Without a doubt. I did not think this would be the more competitive group. I thought that Group A was going to be much more, competitive, much closer. And then it has been very close and very competitive, even more so than I may have have expected at first. But this group B, has certainly started to deliver as well. Soar has looked like a much better team than they did during the online stage.
Yeah.
And as Shalaber told me, I mean, this is the first time this roster has changed so much. This is the first time all year it's felt like where he's had the same roster for a couple weeks at a time, and look what it's done for them. I mean, they look like a completely different team. Mollusk has played very, very well, at least in game 1 of their sets. If he can try and transfer that into game 2 as well, then Soar's going to be a scary squad.
Gold Fury getting started up by KAZ in response to the pressure on the jungle or the solo side of the map, but they're all on their way. Brochacho and Coviiii are here. Coviiii has the ultimate available, so they drop it. Bradley coming back over to try and start the fight, but gets knocked up and rooted by Brochacho into the winds. Coviiii ultimate actually goes in the back end to separate, keeps it alive for the moment. KhaoticPurpose lands in, and now it's Bradley, the one that's going to be the casualty of war. Goes to the Draconic Corruption. Hasn't fallen just yet, but he's spinning right round and gets killed by Coviiii.
Atonement coming back in to drop the Suns, but he might have paid for that one. Has to use the Aegis. Good ultimate from Elexum to try and keep him alive. Atonement with the beads up into the sky, but Transonics was ready for him when he landed.
Mr. Turtle falls on the back end as well, and looking for more is Wolves underneath the Tier 2 tower, while Tier 1 is still up, and they don't care. Actually, a little bit more damage going on than they expected here in the background.
My
Elexum
God.
getting 2v1'd over there, but even with Hotaru there with him, more Wolves does not care.
Wolves is just mean. Like, he doesn't care if you're a sub or if you're on a team that has struggled so far, that he doesn't care that you're down 12-0 in kills or 1 million gold. Like, he just doesn't care. Look at how much golden experience KAZ got during that fight. That's a goose egg in both categories. Astral got over 1,000 nearly in both. I mean, nearing 2,000 in XP. Astral is just dominating right now.
Yeah, no part of that fight went in their favor. And it was a little frustrating because it kind of looked like a clean escape for them for the moment. It looked like maybe they had a chance to get back out of there, but instead they weren't able to cleanly get Bradley out of that engagement. And Mr. Turtle hangs around that back end a little bit too long, and they end up giving up way more than they needed to.
Sometimes you just gotta say, sorry, dude, like, to your support. Just let him go, let him die, and you know, that's what they signed up for. You know, that's the job of the support. Let him, he got Elexum out of danger with his positioning. Elexum actually with a really well-timed disapparate, because Coviii's ult was on point over that wall, and that would have nearly one-shot Elexum being only level 12 compared to Coviii's level 16. You're right, KAZ probably should take that loss where they have it and not try and get back into it in that regard. They need to make Astral overextend, make them try and make mistakes, because right now, if you're taking a fight against Astral, even in your own jungle, there's nothing there to help you. You need to take it underneath the tower. You need to take it when they're tanking up a fire giant, something like that that's going to assist you, because right now 5-on-5 is just not going to work.
No, it really felt like Wolves was willing to go underneath that Phoenix even to get the kill if he had to. Elexum gonna be coming out of that disapparate form into trouble, falling down almost immediately. The tether is out, using the Lord of the Afterlife to gain positioning. Coviiii not able to hit him. Draconic Corruption makes him immune to it during that time. Sunbreaker to come down on Wolves. He's low, and they do finally take him down. Credit goes to Mr. Turtle. KP is also low. Atonement gets that one. It's a 2-for-2 in favor of probably KAZ?
Yeah, absolutely. They get on the board. They get a big gold bounty from killing KP and Wolves, who are both worth roughly 1 million gold, give or take. That's really important for KAZ to get on the board, and they go to some pretty important players. It's to Mr. Turtle, who needs to get some defense online, and it's to Atonement, who needs to be doing the damage to these enemy players. Coviii's ultimate there was actually really sick, by the way. He predicted where that Judgment Tether stun was going to end up. It was just a good beads by Hotaru to get out of it. But for, whenever we crucify him for missing the easy ult on the setup from Brochacho, you got to give him credit when he's on point with the harder ultimates.
It feels like he's been better on the harder ultimates. Kind of like he doesn't really need the setup, actually. So maybe he's doing too much predicting over there as Coviiii. But either way, he's definitely been playing well for them after that first hit that we missed. Sitting 4-0-6 for Astral Authority right now. He's been providing a lot for this team. Everyone has. Everyone's looked good for them this game. They've been incredibly clean, pulling this Portal Demon now. Mr. Turtle gets the freeze onto Brochacho. Actually, the stun comes out too, but he's plenty tanky enough to get away those tornadoes enough to force KAZ back.
Transonics does have the ultimate, but he doesn't even need it right now. Elexum has to go into the disapparate, and Tran just going to wait it out, trying to predict where he's going to end up, but good jukes from Elexum means that he survives.
Those were good dodges to keep him alive for the moment, but I don't know if we can say the same here for this Portal Demon. He's getting ganged up on by 3, and he falls. The Suns come down. That's enough to at least take down Brochacho. Hotaru again gets dunked on by KhaoticPurpose. That's another kill for him. Sorry, Bradley, you're in trouble too. Transonics takes credit for that one. Atonement, just back away with your life. Coming in is Transonics, and he takes that kill too. Gets a double kill in the engagement.
5-0-1 for Astral Authority's Hunter, and the rest of the squad, they're on Fire Giant. Well, it was actually only Wolves on Fire Giant. I just assumed Coviiii was there with him, but Coviiii had backed up and gone towards the mid lane. Now it's going to be a Fire Giant pull for Astral Authority, and with Elexum being the only one even close on the map, it's going to be a tough ask for him to seal this away.
And again, the word I'm thinking of here with this one, it's just clean that we're seeing here from Astral Authority. It's disciplined, and they're just taking the fights when what they give from them, coming back and getting the objectives. That's how they've steadily built this lead up. 12,000 gold now out in front. Fire Giant on all 5 members, 18-3 in the kills, and with all the tier 2 towers open, that gold lead's only going to get worse.
In my mind, it's time for KAZ to start thinking about game 2 and what they want to do differently, because a team like Astral is not going to relinquish this lead. And what I'm doing if I'm KAZ during this time is saying that I don't want to give Wolves free pressure on the right-hand side. Picking Ymir Nemesis, while not awful in pressure in the early game, is nowhere near that of Osiris and Thor. Osiris is a god that Wolves hasn't been able to play in a long time because it's just auto-banned against him. And if you want to know why, just go ahead and rewatch this VOD. He's been dominant so far. In my mind, KAZ has to try and take him off of this pick going into game 2.
It's so difficult, though, to try and make Wolves less comfortable. I mean, the guy is a superstar for sure in this league, and over here bullying out Hotaru 5 levels down over this Osiris. He's alone over here. He has been for some time. He can just push this, and no one can really walk up and try and contest him. Tier 2 tower in dual lane does fall. Tier 2 tower in mid is likely to be pressured down too, as it's getting pushed up by KhaoticPurpose and just getting poked out over here, Hotaru. I mean, there's no need to try and stand defend this one.
I'm not sure that Wolves would die in a 1v4 right now. I mean, Atonement's the only one who's really going to be doing damage to him at this stage. Maybe Elexum as well because of the lack of magical protection in Wolves' build, but even it would take nearly everybody from KAZ and no one else from Astral to come and help. And if you know Astral, you know that's never the case. They've always got teammates waiting in the wings, ready to support one another.
And with this, and KhaoticPurpose in particular on this Thor, man, it's so much pressure that he's been putting on the map too. Getting the most out of this Anvil of Dawn, that semi-global pressure. As you mentioned, you know, it might look like you're in a 2v2 or a 1v2 for a moment, but that's because KhaoticPurpose just hasn't landed yet.
Exactly, and it's been the trust between these teammates, and that's something that Brochacho has always preached as a teammate. Back when I played, he was always talking about trusting one another. And if I say I'm going to stun this guy, I expect your ultimate to be on the way. If I miss, that's on me. And that's kind of the way that this whole team has really learned to play together. I mean, look at the speed buff invade that we talked about, where Wolves goes up and over the wall and trusts that KhaoticPurpose is going to land down and save his life, and he does. By the way, because of course he does, because they're the #1 team in North America right now.
And they're looking every bit of it right now. That Gold Fury goes down to Transonics, more to take it away from KAZ as a potential comeback than anything else. Is at this point, they kind of don't even need it. They're out almost 20,000 gold in the lead. It's really getting to the point now where KAZ don't really have much of a chance of fighting back into it. Up into the air is KhaoticPurpose. He's looking to come crashing down. He does over on the the jungle solo side of the map. Doesn't find much there. Coviiii ultimate comes through, actually hits Mr. Turtle in the back end. Whirlwind of Raging Steel does trap 2, pulls Mr. Turtle back into damage. He ends up falling.
Wolves kind of isolated here. This right side Phoenix still up, and Wolves will not be. Elexum is going to get credit for his first kill of the game. Coviiii still healthy, as is Transonics. This mid Phoenix, certainly not the same. That's going to fall to the hand of Transonics.
And they are able to at least get that mid Phoenix. They trade more Wolves' life for it, and now they're just going to back up. This is, again, that disengage that we've been seeing from that's been clean all game. They got what they wanted. Probably would have preferred not to give up Wolves in the trade, but they can regroup, come back in, and push down these other 2 Phoenixes. And still, I think even without him, still they can make this push.
Just a little, I wonder who KhaoticPurpose was aiming for with that ultimate. I mean, Hotaru was over there. I'm not sure that he dashed away. Maybe he blinked. It just seemed really off the mark from KP. Good play there from KAZ to bait him underneath the wrong Phoenix. And having that Phoenix up was really the difference maker. He takes a lot of damage from it. And then when Wolves tries to escape, that's exactly where he tries to go. But the Phoenix ends up playing a big part in bringing down that tanky solo.
Now Astral regrouping, just kind of cleaning up some buffs. Portal Demon will be respawning here not too long from now, so they'll pick that up likely on their way as they want to regroup, come in and start looking for this last 2 Phoenixes to make their path into this Titan room even easier. With the lead they have, Astral probably could go in and end up finishing it off, but this is the discipline we've been talking about from them, aggro. They want to make sure they're not leaving it up to chance or giving KAZ a way back into it.
And remember, I mean, I imagine that this is a time for KAZ to be thinking about what they want to do in the next game. It's also a time for Astral Authority to be doing the same, thinking about what they want to do in the next game. Elexum tried to steal that Portal Demon away with the ultimate. Doesn't have Rod of Tahuti online yet, so no chance for him to really one-shot a player. Elexum's going to lose his life for it, but you got to appreciate the attempt.
Yeah, trying to find a way to get back into the game was Elexum there, recognizing that even in the 5v5 at Phoenix, it's a difficult task to stop this team, so try and pull back what they can, try and get some farm anywhere that they can, and unable to get it, but more Wolves once again up against the whole team of CAZ eSports. His ultimate is forced out, but I mean, his team's doing the Fire Giant. It's already below half health, and they're going to get it for free.
And he's got plenty of CDR in that build too, so he's not too worried about losing that Lord of the Afterlife, which is really just there for the chase down potential. But between the Thor ult and the long range Kukulkan ult, and of course the Rom snipes, you don't really need that chase down potential anymore. You've got enough damage that no one's likely even getting away from you anyways.
Solo side Phoenix appears to be the call. Wolves looking for some pressure here along with KhaoticPurpose, actually in the mid lane while the rest of his team bears down on that solo side Phoenix. Wolves going to keep pressure so that the fire minions pour in here as well, aggro.
And that's exactly what you want, put pressure on that Titan as you're putting pressure on the right side Phoenix. Wolves right there with KP and Hotaru. He had the beads, but they didn't even matter.
Now it's Mr. Turtle who's locked down, gets hit by the ultimate from Coviiii, who ends up getting credit for that one. 2 quick kills for Astral Authority. The right side Phoenix already below half health, but Chacho wouldn't even seem that interested. Instead, he wants to try and pull in Bradley. Right side Phoenix finally does fall. Atonement. Sunbreaker doesn't get very much. 2 Phoenixes down, and the path looks pretty open for Astral Authority to come in and take the victory.
Frenzy popped here for KAZ, and good stun on the KhaoticPurpose. He takes damage, but Elexum's ultimate doesn't get a lot of value. Astral Authority come in game 1 and make sure everyone remembers just how good they are. That game was easy for them.
This feels a little bit like a bit of a statement game from them. Not saying that they're up against, a huge-time opponent, but coming in and showing that we're still dominant is what it feels like. Coming in and showing that we're still the ones who make the cleanest plays. We're the ones that know how to end these games. And if you're in that group there with them, if you're Soar, if you're Mint, well, you definitely remember these guys are who we thought they were.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, it wasn't their cleanest performance against Soar, but Soar deserves a lot of credit for that game. Astral just got mad afterwards. I mean, they went back to the drawing board. They say, we've got to turn it around. We've got to go back to what makes us great. And that's exactly what they did in that game. It's solo side pressure. It's Transonics having free farm. And then it's Coviiii coming up big with the ultimates in the mid to late game. That's textbook Astral Authority.
In all honesty, I'm sure that they prefer if Soar didn't win games, this group got even easier for them. But every game Soar wins has to make that first set feel better for you, actually. It's like, hey, we didn't slip up. This Soar team's legit.
Exactly. That definitely makes them feel a little bit better. I mean, even hearing them talk about it in the crowd, they were like, okay, at least it wasn't just us. They still played very well.
Yeah, so now they're sitting in a good position to try and come out and get all 3 points. They're going to need them big time here in this set. They get game 1. KAZ has to regroup, try and establish what points they can, but it's going to be difficult up against this Astral squad who are trying to get that sweep here.
Yeah, KAZ cannot afford to drop this next game. If they do, they are eliminated from going to Worlds.
Yeah.
They would be 0-4 so far, and with how well Soar has played and Myth, and obviously Astral would get the 2-0 if that were the case, then they can't afford to drop it. So KAZ has to, if they've got something in the tank, if they've got some sort of weird pick in the cookie jar, it's time to pull it out.
Well, let's go ahead and get over to the desk and see if they think KAZ will be able to pull it out there in game 2.
KAZ pulling it back in game 2 is going to be pretty difficult, especially considering how dominant Astral were looking in game number 1.
I mean, you said it best, actually. Behind the scenes, there were some people out there that had bets, actually, out there, over under 5 kills for KAZ. Now, that's taking a little bit away from Astral and what they were able to do here in this game 1. They came into play, honestly, after losing to Soar yesterday, definitely pumping up the gas here.
I think one of the things that really went badly is they went Ymir and Osiris, which is bad. It's a bad matchup. And they didn't get Heavenly.
That is a good point here. A lot of slows between this Osiris, Kukulkan. If you wanted to go into that Gem of Isolation, it's just too many slows to really handle. And the Ymir was the idea probably just to shut down the Rama, I think, at the late game with the wall potentially, but he was a big focus point.
Yeah, the last thing that KAZ were able to do was keep Transonics in check. He pretty much went on a rampage the entire game. There was just no one that could touch him.
And unfortunately, we didn't actually touch upon this before the game, but playing with 2 subs here for Hotaru and BradleyRJ, maybe things would have switched up if they played with their actual full roster, having some visa issues coming over here to America. But Transonics here in front of your screen, playing this ROM, what more can you say about this performance? Definitely the opposite effect of yesterday.
It's just one of those unfortunate circumstances where your jungler and your solo, or your jungler and your support are unfortunately having to be subbed in for because of visa issues. But I still fully believe that KAZ has enough individually skilled players to potentially come back for a closer match in Game 2. It's going to be really rough, though, and much like what you were saying, Toli, I think they're just going to need some kind of crazy pocket pick strategy. They might as well throw it all out there.
I mean, this is to do or die here. I'm looking at the second game KAZ. If they don't win here, they're not going to make Worlds.
Yeah, it seems that way. I don't know, because they put a pretty good comp together. It just didn't go well in any of the lanes.
You can kind of just tell that there's those gaps of miscommunication and kind of just the lack of synergy. But again, that's to be expected when you have two players that are brought in as subs, and always really difficult when you're facing off against a team that doesn't have any subs and that has been a powerhouse team in North America for like an entire season.
I mean, there's a reason, why they won the Summer LAN, why they won the Spring LAN. They made their roster basically after Season 3 Worlds, and this has just been a roster that's been on fire since the beginning.
And I know that there were a couple of questions raised as soon as we saw that Kukulkan pick coming through for Coviiii, but I think all around he had a very strong performance this game.
It's something that is always interesting to see between online and LAN, because I don't think he necessarily played this online, so now being able to bring this out throws some question marks now for the later stage of this group.
Yeah, I think it just, like you say, you see the highlights in here, they just have really good corridor fights. That's where he's trying to bait, so he can just throw his ulti down the lane. It hits multiple people, it just does a lot of damage. It was good. He played it perfectly.
I think personally that maybe Astral is kind of doing a mind game strategy where they're picking this Kukulkan, they're kind of confusing their picks and bans against Myth more than they are against KAZ here. Maybe they're expecting to 2-0 KAZ in this set.